Do cigarettes smell worse than weed? I used to have coworkers who'd smoke cigarettes while coming to work. I couldn't stand next to them during stand-ups. Honestly, sometimes I struggled to stay in the same room. It's such a disgusting ass smell. I guess if you smoke enough you do become noseblind to it. My ex and I used to smoke pot. We always smoked outside so it wouldn't make the house smell bad. You are nose blind to how awful cigarette smoke is. It does stink up half a city block. For those of us in cold climates, you just reek like no tomorrow when you come inside. I think cigarettes are 100x worse. I've smoked both at different times of my life and now I don't use either, but I think the lingering smell of cigarettes is worse than weed, but when they're actually being smoked I think the weed smells stronger. I also think the cigarette smell just lingers longer in general too. Cigarettes are repulsive. My kid has a friend that we give rides to sometimes and his family smokes in their home. The smell lingers in my car for a day. Seriously. It's so nasty. I feel terrible for the kid having to go to school reeking like that. I have not smoked either one, but have friends who do both. While I dislike the smell of both, tobacco is definitely the worst smelling of the two, but weed is a much stronger smell. Both smells also stick to the clothes very unpleasantly in a way that smokers or stoners just don't seem to be able to tell. When someone even just opens a container of weed you can smell it throughout the whole room, which doesn't happen with tobacco. However, given the choice between being in a room with someone smoking a cigarette or someone smoking a joint, I would far prefer the weed smoker. I am a barber. I can tell when someone is a smoker. Your hair smells of cigarettes, especially straight after spraying it with water. But I can't with weed. Unless none of my clients are weed smokers, which I'd assume is highly unlikely. I've never smoked anything, and I dislike the smell of both. I didn't realize how badly cigarette smoke was until I quit. It's just rank. I'd take the smell of weed any day over it. It makes me gag now. I can't believe I walked around smelling like that for a decade. Kissing me must have been like licking a sewer drain. While I don't like the smell of marijuana, I'd rather smell it than cigarettes. Cigarette smoke smells way worse, and is harsher on the people who have to breathe that in secondhand. I will say that some weed smells better than others, but even the worst of weed still smells a million times better than any cigarette. Additionally, there are people out there who genuinely like the smell of weed, while I've never met a single person who likes the smell of cigarettes. My parents smoke cigarettes, and when I moved out for college my roommate told me all my clothing reeked of cigarette smoke. They still smoke in their home, and when I go to visit, usually just stay for the night, my BF asks me to wash everything I've worn immediately and not even put it in the hamper because the cigarette smell comes home with me. I'm less sensitive to it. But yes, it's very strong and gets on the walls of your home and any soft fabrics. I argued that at least a cigarette doesn't reek up half the block, and he said, yes it does, you've just become nose blind. They are absolutely correct. You don't realize this, but your sense of smell is absolutely shot and desensitized to cigarette smoke. You have absolutely no concept of how strongly you smell to non-smokers. You don't like the smell of weed, and that's completely valid. But as someone who smokes neither of them, I assure you that cigarettes totally smell much stronger than weed. Cigarettes smell vile emo. Let's put it this way. I know when the smokers are out on the dock when I am on the other side of a 100-feet warehouse. Because the smell floats in. Smells can travel far distances, and it really doesn't matter what it is. In general though, I'd rather smell weed than cig smoke because at least with weed it may or may not be that strong. Whereas cigarettes, it's pretty definite it will have the same strong odor. I have smoked both in the past, and cigarettes from a pack are by far the worst. Tobacco rollies are better but can still stink up the place. Cannabis is stinky but doesn't linger nearly as bad. Plus the volume of smoke is smaller. So I would say, given that you are more likely to smoke a bunch of ciggies than to smoke a bunch of joints, tobacco is smellier. Now which one smells better is a ridiculous argument. I effing hate smokers who think it's okay to smoke outside near a door to a building. It stinks the whole place out and makes it unpleasant for everybody. Also at work we had to buy 2 coat stands, smoking, non-smoking, as those who smoked would transfer the smell onto others' coats, ruining them. Cigarettes smell so much worse than weed. The smell of cigs is a thick, heavy fog that clings to fabrics and hair. Green smoke doesn't last anywhere near as long and fades into a subtle aroma. Cigarette smoke is beyond disgusting. And worse, the smell sticks. I have friends that smoke weed, and while it smells, the smell dissipates fairly quickly. Like if they clean their houses and keep weed out of it for a few days and have the windows open, the smell is totally gone. Cigarette smoke gets into everything. Air vents, clothes, carpet, even the walls themselves, and takes months if not years to go away. I'm old enough that I remember when smoking was allowed in bars and restaurants, and I had specific clothes to wear out since they'd reek to high heaven, and no matter how drunk I was I always had to shower when I got home to get the stench off of me. I hate both, but cigarettes are worse. And yes, cigarettes absolutely do stink up a large area, even if you're nose blind. Critical thinking would get you to this conclusion. Weeds stink way further, but cigarettes stink way worse. Let's just say that I smoke a lot of weed. I'd guess that the majority of weed smokers don't smoke as much as I do. However, if I brush my teeth and shower to go out in public, little people will know that I'm a pothead. However, if you and I went to a bar to pick up the same girl, if she is close enough to each of us, she will be able to tell you smoke cigarettes. It's hard to explain, but there is something about smokers that linger long after the cigarettes are gone. It's on the fingers, it's on their lips, and it on their clothes. Marijuana had a very strong smell initially, but fades away, whereas tobacco gets worse before it gets better. That's just my opinion.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.